Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with a really important reissue. Rachmaninoff's Complete Symphonies, featuring Leonard, Slatkin, and the Detroit Symphony on Naxos. This is his second Rachmaninoff cycle, and these are fabulous. This is, quite simply, the great contemporary Rachmaninoff symphony cycle, bar none. There isn't a weak link anywhere. The performances are extraordinary. And you get, finally, they boxed up. This is so smart. Naxos is finally doing some smart boxes, which I really think is the way to go, because these came out separately over a period, and they didn't get a lot of attention, which really sort of annoyed me because they really were fabulous. As you can see, you get Detroit on the cover, which is the first thing you think about naturally when you think about Rachmaninoff. And there it is, Detroit, and smog or fog or something, or I don't know. But artwork aside, the musical values are absolutely second to none. You get, on disc 1, let's just go through it, Symphony number 1 and the Isle of the Dead. Ooh. Symphony number 2 on disc 2 with the Vocalise, of course, you've got to have that. And on disc 3, Symphony number 3, and the Symphonic dances. So it's sort of like all the best Rachmaninoff orchestral music as well, including the symphonies. And like I said, these performances are stunning. Now we know that Slatkin always did good Rachmaninoff because he recorded all of the major orchestral works, plus concertos and everything else for Vox with the St. Louis Symphony. It was some of the first recordings that he made in any shape or form, and they were highlights of the Vox catalog. They still have a very good reputation, those performances, in some circles, and they're excellent. They're really excellent. But this is in another realm. First of all, the sonics are really splendid. The second symphony is a live recording, which sounds just marvelous, but they're really good sounding. But the performances have, for me anyway, the perfect blend of passion and spontaneity without ever sounding mannered. You know what I mean? You know, Rachmaninoff performances can be extremely interventionist and wayward. And the music itself seems to encourage conductors to futz with it. And conductors futz in many ways. The futzitude is virtually endless. For example, the futzitude in the second symphony. Well, that usually involves changing the orchestration around. You know, adding that ridiculous timpani thump at the end of the first movement that Rachmaninoff never wrote. Or using cuts, because Rachmaninoff agreed with. I mean, he authorized certain cuts to shorten the work back in the day when attention spans couldn't tolerate things. But now that we listen to Mahler and Bruckner, Rachmaninoff's a piece of cake. You should always do the piece whole. You shouldn't cut it up or chop it and slice it to ribbons. I mean, that would be terrible, wouldn't it? But Slatkin doesn't do any of those things. He plays the music as Rachmaninoff wrote it, but he understands how to really pulverize one of those climaxes, like in the first movement, how to keep that scherzo going like crazy. The fugatos are marvelous in the central part, how to keep the adagio flowing because it can really bog down, and how to make sure the finale has no dead spots. I mean, that takes real mastery at the podium, and trust in the greatness of the music to do its thing if you go where it wants you to go. Now, the first symphony, I started with the second, but we can go through this a little bit. The first symphony is a little bit more problematic because Rachmaninoff, remember, thought it was like destroyed or lost, or it only was reassembled after he died. And there are some textural issues, especially in the central development section, where for some reason some performances use cymbals and glockenspiel and bass drum and things, and others don't. Well, this one just uses the glockenspiel part, which really makes sense because the woodwinds are doing bell things. You know, the dies irae motive is da da ba ba bum bum, and the woodwinds are going bum 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 bum. I mean, why not throw a glockenspiel in there? It works really well. So that's what we have here, and it's fine. But the rest of it is normal. It's the way that I've seen the score, frankly, and the way we played it when we did it. And it's glorious. I mean, it's really the best first since Ashkenazis with the Concertgebouw, which has the most unbelievable coda you've ever heard in your life. But it's really, really, really hot. It's just terrific. And the Isle of the Dead that comes with it is marvelously flowing. You really hear that rhythm in 5/8. Boo doo 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 doo, boo doo 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 doo. 1 2 1 2 3, 1 2 3 4 5. That's the rhythm. And you really have to hear that flowing, the ebb and flow of the water lapping at the edge of the Isle of the Dead. Oh, it's just great. And then the third symphony, which is the most problematic of all. It's the toughest one. And Slatkin, to his credit, does not play it like the second symphony. In other words, he gives it a little bit more chromium, a little bit more modernistic flow and edge, because it is a little edgy. It's sort of closer in style to the later symphonic dances, which are amazing, and which he plays fabulously, complete with that wonderful tam-tam overhang at the end. Yes, it's the way it's supposed to sound. It's absolutely fantastic. Again, no dead spots, which in the third symphony is a big deal, because the third symphony can really bog down, particularly the finale, which has a sort of, fugato of desperation in the middle of it. Russian composers often do that, when in doubt, in the middle of a development section, write a fugue thing. And, this just goes. It's just a great, great cycle. And I think you should all hear it. And now it's all together in a nice little box. And that's a wonderful thing. An absolutely wonderful thing. And if you're curious about further details, I've reviewed these in more literary detail on classicstoday.com, all three of them. So you can go and read those reviews. Feel free. You get more bang for your buck that way. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care.